You don't need to come to Canada to be successful. There is no need here. It's a want.
And this is what she said. There's such a nice college, beach right in front of you, big campus.
The whole entire reason why you came to Canada gets lost somehow. Because now your entire focus becomes on those short-term needs, which is making money.
And that's just one story. And there's hundreds and hundreds of other stories just like that.
No one else deserves to be defining what your capabilities are and who you can become or cannot become.
What are the must-do things in order for me to set myself up for success?
It wasn't everything I imagined it to be. And I think it isn't for a lot of people. The kind of perception I was shown of what coming to Canada looks like was very different than what it actually was.
So my follow-up to that is related to networking as well.
Would you rather have students come in, be successful, and then leave the country, or keep staying in the country instead of having twice more students come in, with half of them facing homelessness, or half of them struggling or being unemployed, working in toxic environments? Every international student immigrant that comes into Canada, I want them to know that they hold that pen and they write that story.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Truth Tribe podcast. I'm your host, Ravi Toor, and today we're discussing international students, careers, how to run a not-for-profit, and how to make an impact in the world with a very special guest from Redefined Canada, Ritika Saraswat. Ritika, welcome to the show.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I'm so excited for today's conversation. I think this has been pending for a while. So really looking forward to get into the conversation.
That makes the two of us. I'm super excited for this conversation as well. So for those who are listening, who is Ritika Saraswat? Ritika is a powerhouse of inspiration, known for her relentless pursuit to empower international students and professionals worldwide, particularly in Canada, from battling job restrictions to becoming a guiding light for thousands. Her story is of hope and resilience. She wears many hats as a founder of Redefined, a business analyst at Deloitte, a motivational speaker, and a career consultant. Ritika holds a Bachelor of Kinesiology from the University of British Columbia. She is dedicated to lifting marginalized communities and guiding international students. She's the founder of Redefined, not-for-profit, empowering 30,000 individuals across 5 countries. Actually, a thriving community builder with a network of 50,000 international students, recognized as a LinkedIn top voice and a board of director at various organizations. Awarded multiple honors, including the CMCBC Student Award for Excellence. She's been featured in Times Square, CTV, CBC, and numerous other magazines. A motivational force with 40 plus talks under her belt, including 2 times TEDx presentations. Super excited to cover all that with you, Ritika. But to start us off, in your own words, who are you and what do you do?
I am just a girl from India. Just trying to do things that people told me I could never do, right? Just trying to make things possible, and in many ways constantly, I would say, redefining myself and my capabilities. I love that word because I think for a lot of us that come from BIPOC communities, when we're even switching countries and so on and so forth, I think there's a lot of stereotypes and so many other layers that come to us just because of the identity and the cultural piece we hold. And I think for us as individuals, there's this responsibility or this constant effort that we need to put in every single day to help people see us more than just that. So I think I'm just someone who's trying to do that every single day and hoping others can do it for themselves as well.
That's lovely. That's a perfect way to start off. So if I have to ask you, how do you define success and who do you consider successful?
I think success for me is when you are in a position to help others at an endless capacity, whether it be financially, whether it be socially, mentally, emotionally. And I think a few of the people that I consider successful, some of them, obviously see it's different degrees of success. One for me is my parents, right? I consider them successful not just because of the money they have been able to make and all of that, but I think more so because of the kind of lives they live, whereby there is this supreme satisfaction, which is who they are, where they're at. And there's just this idea of being happy in the present, right? I think for a lot of us today, we don't have peace, because we all are chasing after things. And I think I honestly lack peace as well. I feel like once I get something, I'm on to that next thing. And I feel like a lot of us in youth, in this social media age, are not able to achieve that at our ages, right? I think for me, success is being able to have that peace and satisfaction with where you're at, but at the same time, being motivated and driven enough to know when it's time to push yourself and know when it's not time to push yourself. I think success is having that mental understanding, but at the same time, whatever you have been able to achieve for yourself, being able to share that with others too. Because I think being alone and being successful is not success for me. I think you have to take people along. I don't know if that's a clear answer. And I feel like with all of those things in mind, there isn't one person who I can say, oh yeah, that person's absolutely successful, because I think it's so subjective. And for each one of us, we may be successful in some ways, but not in the others, right? I don't think a person like that exists, to be quite honest. Yeah.
Absolutely. There is no perfectionist out there who has it all figured out.
Absolutely. 100%.
So you came to University of British Columbia to do your bachelor's of kinesiology. How old were you when you first came to Canada, and what led you to pursue kinesiology? What sparked your interest?
So I came to Canada when I was 18 years old. So right after my 12th boards in India. So I graduated from an ICSE curriculum back home. And then I did IB school. And then I came here at the age of 18. And I did my bachelor's of kinesiology from UBC. Very much like a pre-med thing it was. Because most of us South Asian kids, we're told that there are 4 careers in life. You either become doctor, engineer, work for the government, or become a business person. And I feel like for me that time, I wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to create an impact. And that's one thing I heard from my relatives and from my parents, that doctor is the best way to be it. And that's why I came here to pursue kinesiology, hoping to fulfill that dream. But here we are, quite away from being a doctor. But
yeah, looks like destiny had another plans for you. Was it everything that you imagined it to be coming into Canada, going to then UBC? What were some of the challenges?
It wasn't everything I imagined it to be. And I think it isn't for a lot of people. And I think that was the case because the kind of perception I was shown of what coming to Canada looks like was very different than what it actually was. Right? I think most often on social media, and maybe now it's changing, honestly, but I think when I moved here, which was about 6 years ago, most of the type of content you saw on social media, whether it was on LinkedIn, on Instagram or YouTube videos, was more about, hey, this is the land of dreams. Come here and change your life. Right? But I think, yes, your life does change, but not always for the better, but not always in the fancy or the best ways, right? It also changes in quite the opposite ways, right? So when I came in first, I remember one of the biggest struggles and challenges all of us have is the financial constraints. From the time I bought the Starbucks coffee at the airport to taking a cab to my university, and I was like, wait a second, because that calculator starts going in your head. You're like, oh, that's $8 for a coffee, and then you convert that, you're like, that's a lot of money, right? And I think there's this kind of international student guilt, I feel like, which is a concept that exists a lot, where, being sometimes the privileged ones who have ever gotten the opportunity to come out, your parents spending so much on you. And for me, even being a woman, that guilt combined with that extreme financial stress, my first response was, oh, I need to make money. Even though there wasn't that need at that moment that, oh, it's this or nothing, right? But your focus starts going there. And because of that focus, you end up losing clarity on the long-term goal you had. And the whole entire reason why you came to Canada gets lost somehow. Because now your entire focus becomes on those short-term needs, which is making money. So that you can buy that iPhone, you can buy your parents those gifts, which you've always wanted to buy them, and show people this amazing lifestyle you're living in Canada, right? Which you may not have been able to live at this age back home. I think that's one of the biggest challenges and those mindset constraints I think happens. The second is the lack of perceived credibility, right? When we come in from cultures outside of North American cultures or even outside of Canada in general, there is this perception amongst employers or other people here that we don't have the credibility or the experiences or the knowledge or the skill sets that are needed to make ourselves successful in that specific market. And also that's the reason why even today so many international students face challenges getting opportunities, because those non-Canadian experiences aren't recognized, right? Which showcases that there is this perception that is not as credible as North American experiences. And even when I was working in my part-time job, and I think the third piece that relates to the point I was just going to mention is the kind of network, the lack of organized community that exists in Canada as well for international students and immigrants, I think is another third piece, which is why Redefine and all this beginning came into being. Because when I came in here and when I started doing my part-time jobs, most of the people I was surrounded by told me, hey, this is what your people do. That's what I was told, right? And your people end up doing this for another 20, 30 years. So they were literally, this is what my manager used to tell me when I used to work at my pizza place. They're like, no need to dream big. I've seen people like yourself come do this for another 40 years and they keep doing it. So you're going to be doing the same. Why kill yourself over dreams you may not be able to achieve? Like things like those. And I feel like that again becomes that mindset constraint for you. So I think those three things for me was the biggest challenge that I noticed, like in terms of just being successful in Canada in general.
Yeah. Very good points that you made there. What a jerk, the manager of yours. Who would say such a thing to anyone and discourage anyone? I was an international student when I first came to Canada, so I know a lot of these struggles that you've just described there. And kudos to you for taking this initiative, because a lot of us have felt the pain, but we haven't done anything about it. But you are the one who are actually doing something about it. So from there to starting Redefined Canada, do you recall the exact moment when you were like, hey, I need to make a change and this is how I'm going to do it? What led you to that moment?
I think the moment when that manager looked at me, obviously the space I was working at was a toxic environment, quite honestly, right? And I remember this one day I was leading some initiative and I ended up coming to my shift 5 minutes late. And in front of the entire pizza place, he told me so many things and he told me, don't forget, you are here and I am there. And that's the day I was like, wait a second. When he made that comment, and I was like, how can someone see me as nothing, right? Do I bring no value to this organization? Why doesn't this person see that value, even though I've been working for them for 2 years? Can you imagine that, first of all? 2 years I've been working, and this is the perception. And that day I was like, wait a second. And initially when it happens to you, you're like, okay, that's okay. But then when I started talking to people, when I started sharing on LinkedIn about this experience, I had so many others reach out to me who were facing instances of harassment sometimes at their part-time places, especially women as well, and people who could not go anywhere else because they did not have the option to. And that time I started thinking, I was like, you know what? I have the option to leave this job today because my financial sustenance isn't completely dependent on this. And I said, if I have the opportunity to do that, why not try and do something that can help others who are financially dependent on opportunities like this and cannot escape it no matter how bad it gets, because that's the only thing for them, right? And I think I am very emotional, and I feel like for me, when I see someone else go through something that I've been through as well, I'm like, oh, now I'm not betting it at all. And I think for me, that was the day I'm like, every international student immigrant that comes into Canada, I want them to know that they hold that pen and they write that story. No one else deserves to be defining what your capabilities are and who you can become or cannot become, right? No manager can tell you all of those things. And for me, it was the whole idea of being able to create that flexibility also for them and that access to a community so that they have the confidence to even stand up to those kind of landlords, to those kind of employers that they may come across while they're looking for those opportunities. So I think that just simply was that time I was like, you know what, let's just start it. And my first step honestly was just creating like an Instagram account. And I was like, hey, starting a company today. Does anyone want to come along? And here we are after a year and a half with 50,000 of people and a team of 100 plus people across Canada. It does grow, right?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love the name Redefined. I think
Thank
it really
you.
aligns with what you're trying to do. So you mentioned 100 some team members within Canada. Can you give me a breakdown of who those 100 people are? What do they do? Who's who in the zoo?
Yes, so I will not know all the 100 people, quite honestly, but every city, so we're basically based across 4 different cities in Canada, right? And each city, we have our chapter teams, you could say, like the regional chapter or the provincial teams. But beyond the provincial teams, we also have clubs across different universities and colleges, actually, that are the Redefine clubs. So within Toronto itself, we have about 6 clubs, right? And similarly in Vancouver, Montreal, and Halifax, also we have clubs at universities and colleges. And we're also expanding into Calgary like this summer. So each of those clubs have their own team of 15 people, like 10 to 15 people each, including the members and team. And then our own team has about like 10 members in each of those cities as well. So with those 6 tens are 60.
So somewhere up there.
So it averages around to 100, maybe a little bit more than that, or maybe a little bit less, but I think it averages out completely to 100 because of the team structure we've developed. And I think the way we work as well is not something very hierarchical, right? I think for me, I tell everyone in my team that I tell them, you all are founders, you all are entrepreneurs, you all run Redefine, it's your baby. Treat it as that and work accordingly that. So I think, it's 100 or maybe other more brand ambassadors and all of that as well, but 100 people who are working on the ground to actually make those initiatives and things happen.
I'm so intrigued. So these 100 people at these locations, what exactly are they doing? What kind of resources are you providing? Who are you really helping?
Our main idea is to help international students and even broader immigrants, but mainly focused on students, because I think when it even comes to creating opportunities for immigrants, most often than not, it's people who are permanent residents, who have a likelihood to get more access to opportunities and recognition opportunities as well as compared to international students. So that's why one of the gaps that we are trying to fill is by creating a community that is for those students by those students themselves. That's why if you even see the team of 100 people I'm talking about are all volunteers themselves, right? And all of them are students or they are professionals who are working on these things part-time and who are taking out their time just to give back to the community, right? And a lot of their initiatives will look like, let me give you an example. So in Calgary, we never have plans of expanding there, but there is a center, a newcomer center based out of there who reached out to us and they were like, hey, we want to be acquired by Redefine. And I was like, wait a second, we can't acquire you. We aren't like a startup, like making money or anything. But I was like, you can become our chapter. If that's something you're interested in, we can rebrand you and everything and have a few more people assigned. So their role now becomes they become those sources of hubs of information for us to tell us what exactly are the needs of the communities in that exact region and specifically in those universities and colleges. That's why we started with the concept of clubs as well, because what I realized when I was going to even talks at these different universities and colleges, students across each institution are very different. Their needs are very different because it's completely dependent on what the institution is even providing to them today. What are those motivations of those teachers and professors as well in their institution, which dictates what's accessible to them and what's not. And depending on that, the kind of needs they have and the kind of services they would want from us would also differ. So our whole point for them is, first of all, for them to act as the source of information, to tell us what students need and to validate it with them. And secondly, to help us into carrying those things out as well. So resources would come in from our end. Guidance would come in from our end on how do we find those sponsors for events, right? Who are some of those mentors we can reach out to, connecting them with people at different companies in that particular area so that they can bring in mentors. All of that would happen from our national team, right, for Canada itself, but they would then carry it out at their individual levels.
Just an off-track question. Why do you think that chapter in Calgary reached out to you to see if they can have a partnership with you in place? What do you think attracted them?
I think for a lot of, and it's not just the chapter in Calgary, like even any of the other clubs we have formed at York, at Seneca, Mohawk, and which one, Conestoga, all of them have happened not because we said, hey, we want to create a club. But it happened because people just saw the work that we're doing. And I had literally made a post where I mentioned, hey, if anyone is looking to align with us, the work we're trying to do, because I strongly believe one of us is not enough. Right? There are 1.5 million immigrants if you count till the end of 2025. Who are going to be in Canada overall. And even us as one organization, even if we cater to 50,000, that's nothing compared to 1.5 million that exists, right? So we need to be joining hands. And I think I had made a post about how we want to join hands with other organizations or even individuals who want to open up our similar chapters, who see value in the work we're trying to do and execute it at their own level, at their own either institutions or at their regions. And that's when I think people just started reaching out because they have seen the kind of work we have done. And a lot of these people actually are coincidentally people who have attended some of our events, right? And it has been that word of mouth as well in their own community of students to be like, hey, they're doing some great work. Why don't we create something like that here as well? And that's how it actually ended up starting, because what's surprising is for a lot of our events, even though the biggest ones happen in Toronto, we have had a lot of people from Montreal and Calgary fly down to even attend our events. So they have paid for their flight tickets, plus they have paid for the event tickets, right? So I think, and that's what made us be like, okay, we need more chapters. Like even in Toronto as of now, we don't have a chapter in Brampton, right? We don't have a chapter in Mississauga, but we have Etobicoke as well. We have so many students coming in from there. They're commuting 2 to 3 hours, right? And they're like, I wish we could have something there. And so we're still figuring those things out because we can't do too much either. Otherwise we're spreading ourselves thin. But I think it's just that need identification that they see. And as I mentioned, there isn't actually a community that exists for international students by international students, which is incredibly unfortunate. There are a lot of organizations I could pull up right now that are in the immigrant space, but some of them cater to mid-career professionals and the others cater to just generally all. But that all strategy does not work because you need to be individualizing things and you need to bring representatives who look like them, speak like them, and are their own age. right?
Yeah.
That's important.
So 100%. I think it speaks a lot about the credibility that your organization has built up. That's why people are reaching out to you. And I agree to the point that people who have actually lived through those experiences be able to guide others as well. So international students, that's one of your biggest focus.
Yes.
Because you interact with so many of them, what is the current state, the ground reality of international students in Canada, if you have to explain it?
Oh, this is a big topic. I think one of the first things is lack of awareness. For a lot of them, when you speak to them, what you just realize is these are naive students who are coming in with that painted picture of Canada being the be all and the end all for them, right? If you talk to a lot of them, for them, their end goal has been to come to Canada. Right? So when they're coming here, after coming here, when you ask them what do you want to do, they're like, I don't know, because I never thought about that. What they've only been thinking about is coming here. So now when they're here, and why do they want to come here? Because people around them are telling them that you need to be there to be successful. But I don't think that's the reality, right? I'm never trying to tell people don't come to Canada, but what I'm trying to tell them is you don't need to come to Canada to be successful. There is no need here. It's a want more, right? You can, because success is more of an individual factor. And I think, I don't know why these things have been created. And a lot of these go back to the old stereotypes and all of the things about like how Videsh is always better than your own country and all of that idea. Like even the education system, people just assume the education is better. I said, in what ways? Right? When I honestly came here, I came here because of the exposure I wanted to get. I came here because I knew if I would be back home, I would still be getting influenced by people around me, including my parents and my relatives and so many others. And I wanted to be by myself in a new country to be able to figure things out. Who I am. I wanted to explore all of that, challenge myself. That's why I came here. But for a lot of them, if you ask you, that's nowhere the reason they came here. It's just because it's Canada. And I think that is becoming very harmful for them because when they're coming here and they're realizing, anyone I talk to, this is what they say. They're like, oh, the agent told me I would easily find a job after graduating from this university or college. Oh, I thought Canada was so amazing. So I was like, did you not do your research? Did you not watch like videos? And that's what I realized is because they're so naive, that lack of awareness is amplified by the fact that their sources of information are only limited to an agent and a relative, right? Who may be based out of Brampton, living in their own community, who are telling them, yes, it's amazing, we eat every day, we sleep every day, and this and that. Right? But now when they're coming here and when they're coming to downtown areas, they're struggling to find jobs, right? Because there are so many people here, the competition. They're like, oh, I thought Canada wouldn't have as much competition. I said, what do you... So I feel like that's that, I don't know who has the lack of awareness, lack of preparation because of that lack of awareness, I think is the biggest piece. The second thing is the lack of direction. For a lot of them who are also coming here, because they have never taken out the time, even back home, because our curriculums back home also don't encourage this, to take the time to realize what's my why, what's my calling, right? And that aligns with all of that lack of awareness piece, because if you come here with no idea what you really want to do, you're going to find yourself running after every second person or second immigrant you find who is doing XYZ things. For a lot of them, I ask them, why are you working that part-time job? They're like, oh, because my friend is working that job. A lot of them, I ask them, why do you decide to take up marketing? Oh, my friend is good doing marketing. So their life has become their friends today, right? And then what happens is that leads to the third thing, the lack of satisfaction, or rather should I say dissatisfaction, accompanied with the lack of confidence. Why is that? Because every day now, while they're living their friend's life, they're still scrolling on places like Instagram and LinkedIn and feeling constantly dissatisfied of who they are because they're seeing these other people be achieving those awards, be getting those jobs left and right, be speaking at conferences, and they're sitting, why not me? What they're not realizing when they're looking at all of that is while they are sitting there and thinking, why not me? And doing what their friend is doing, there are others who are figuring out what they really want to do and then chasing those dreams. Mm-hmm. That's the difference. And the others are actioning. And that leads to my last thing, I think, with students, lack of accountability. All of that leads to lack of accountability because when you have lack of sense of direction, lack of purpose identification, that leads to lack of accountability because you don't know what you're moving towards, right? I see students complain on not getting a job, but I've been at job fairs where I see students going around the entire job fair, picking up chocolates from every table and taking it. Honestly, I was at a job fair once and there were like pens on my desk. A student comes, takes all the pens. And I told them, come here 1 second. And I literally spoke to them in Hindi because a lot of them were from India. And I spoke to them in Hindi. I told them, ki, if your purpose is getting the pen, I will buy you a box of pens for this, right? But you tell me, are you struggling to find jobs today? Yes, yeah, I'm not finding only, I'm applying so much. Like that they say, right? And I'm like, okay, what are you doing about it? Yeah, I'm just applying. Still no luck. So I said, so now when you come to these fairs and when you're picking up these pens, do you think this is going to help you get that job? Right? You're not talking to so many employers right in this room about how you want those opportunities. And now you'll go back home and again complain to your parents on that phone and maybe fly back home because you're like, you know what, there are no opportunities here. But you haven't even tried because they don't know the right way to even try. Again, because of that lack of network and that limited network, rather, should I say, that they have, which is presenting to them just one perspective of, hey, keep working a part-time job, keep working at all these places to get that PR. And once you get your PR, then figure out what you want to do. I think those 4 things I would say are the main ones.
I think there's a lot of valid points that you raised there. And I can share my example. I came to Canada 10 years ago, and I was one of those people who didn't do my research. I just took everybody's word.
Yeah.
My immigrant agent was my friend's chacha. So I was like, must be telling the truth. Counselor from the college came to India, and this is what she said. Word by word, this is what she said. This is such a nice college, beach right in front of you, big campus. And I come to Canada. The college was Alexander College in the Metrotown Mall. The relatives that I was staying with, I come and tell them this college is in the mall. And they're like, college in the mall? And I'm like, yeah, but it's the biggest mall, so maybe. So we go looking for this college. And this is just when it first started. I kid you not. It's just one hallway, 5 rooms on one side, 5 rooms on the other side. And that was it. And I was heartbroken. And I was a kid coming in, 19 years old. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
That's the biggest scam of all. Oh my God.
And that's just one story. And there's hundreds and hundreds of other stories just like that. Let's flip the narrative. So let's say I'm an international student. It's my first day in Canada right now. What are the must-do things in order for me to set myself up for success that I could do?
I think one thing I would say, even before they come to Canada, the first thing should be to start developing relationships and gaining knowledge on what's actually out there. Right? To your point, I don't think this should wait till the time they come to Canada. This should be happening even before you make the decision to come to Canada. Right? What should be happening? Networking. You having an active LinkedIn profile, know what's out there. Many a times what I've realized, because I was back home in India actually a few months ago, and I was doing like a tour across, speaking at different universities and institutions with a lot of students who want to go abroad. And when you speak to them, it's the same idea again. Oh, Canada is just better. That's why I want to go there, right? My relatives are there. They have amazing education. I was like, great. How does that change your life? You tell me, right? So I feel like a big step to that is actually seeing what's there in the world. What are people doing out there? We don't even know that. We feel sometimes, see, there's a fine line between being satisfied with you, who you are, and at the same time not knowing what's actually out there. There's a difference between the two. And what I'm seeing is for a lot of us, before we even come here, we don't even know what's out there. We're just so satisfied thinking in our limited thinking that, oh, everyone going to Canada is just getting PR and that's what success is like. But success is not that at all, right? You need to see that there are 12-year-olds today building companies that they're selling for 200 crores back home in India itself, right? There are people who come here after 25 years of experience and still are working at 7-Eleven, right? But then you'll have people who come here with no experience and are the CEOs of top companies today. So all those scenarios are present, but you will get inspired, you will get motivated, you will have direction and purpose identification only when you know who those amazing people are out there. But if you don't know that, how will you create those steps, first of all, right? So I think for anyone who's planning to come, the first step is actually put yourself out there, talk to people who are currently in Canada, students like yourself, who maybe come from the same city and country as yourself, the same cultures, same maybe educational backgrounds as well. Ask them, how is your university or college? If you're planning to apply to colleges, first reach out to people in those colleges. You know how you said you were going to that college? My first step would be to find people on LinkedIn who go to that college currently, reach out to them, develop a relationship with them by talking to them over a period of time, maybe even do a video call with them one day and be like, hey, can you take me around the college? Can you give me a tour of what the college looks like? What are some of the challenges you are facing? How's the job market like? Are you being able to find part-time jobs? And so on and so forth. Because when you have those conversations, automatically you'll know what the reality is. And now what you can do is prepare before coming. And when you prepare before coming, I promise you, the day you land, it won't feel like it's your first day in Canada. It'll feel like you've already known this place for a while and you're just here to establish a home. It'll feel very different. You won't feel the anxiety, you won't feel the nerves because you've networked, you have a connection already. You already know people in your college that you're going to go into who may be just a year above you and who have been here for a lot longer than you. And you may have, through those connections, already got referrals for getting those part-time jobs, even on your first day, right? So it makes a huge difference. I would say that's the first step. And the second step was when you come here, the connections you have made, get in touch with them in person. Set up those in-person coffee chats with each of those people you're connected with, whether it be professors, whether it be students, whether it even be potential employers at different companies. Even though employment may be something on students' radar after 3 years of university or after they're about to graduate, start developing the connections even before you come to Canada. Reach out to them, let them know, hey, I'm coming here, want to work at this company or in this space. What are your pieces of advice? And keep developing that connection, and that sets you so much ahead than anyone else. Because now by the time you're about to graduate, all you got to do is tap into those networks, and they may have already been seeing you progress day by day, year by year, right? So it's done. And the last thing I would say is LinkedIn. That is, again, another piece of it, right? Because that's where a lot of the networking would happen. And if they have that strong profile and portfolio where they're already influencing their capability of perceived capability by others, by sharing what they want people to see on that social media platform, showing what all they have done in India and how this applies to what they will be doing in Canada, they're already building that credibility again before they even come here. I think those, I would say, are the main things.
Yeah, really good points. I have LinkedIn written down in my notes here. So since you've already mentioned it, why don't we jump right there? So you're a top voice on LinkedIn. Thousands of people follow you. How do you leverage LinkedIn to its best ability to stand out?
Great question. Because, and I will say this, that I think LinkedIn has been a game changer for me, for my life in general. Every opportunity I've got till date has been because of LinkedIn. Before LinkedIn, I always felt like I was a nobody. LinkedIn helped me become a somebody. LinkedIn helped me become someone that people value, right? It helped me occupy space when I walk into a room. And I think that's important, especially as immigrants, especially as each and every one. And I think a big part of it is by just telling people what you do and how amazing you are. Each one of us, I think, are brilliant in the work that we do. We're so unique in the way we approach problems, right? The way we come up with solutions, the way we even talk to people. It's so different. And each one of us have our own strengths, but many a times we fail to see those strengths because we believe on what XYZ people tell us. Because people tell us that, hey, you being smart means you getting a 98% and not you having these creative ideas. We believe that, and we keep self-depreciating ourselves or self-doubting, self-rejecting ourselves constantly. But I think when you start talking about those experiences, you not only in a way, if you're someone who has low self-confidence, you not only in a way get that validation from the audience to be like, you know what, I'm like you as well, but I became that somebody, and you can do the same. And I think for me, a big part of it has been embracing those insecurities. It has been embracing those vulnerabilities, being very vocal about it, because I know there are going to be thousands of others who feel the same as I do, or maybe even worse, right? And I think sharing about that. And secondly, creating credibility for the work that you do is important as well. When you talk to so many of the immigrants who have been moved here, these are doctors, engineers, and all of that. But I tell them, all of these things you're telling me that you're amazing at, how many people know that besides you? How many people know about it besides you and your friends and your parents? And that'll be very less number of people. So I'm like, if you're trying to get a job at an X company, or if you're trying to get an investment from an XBC person, if those people don't know who you are, if they don't know you exist and they don't know how incredible you are, how will they even choose you? Or how will they even select you in the first place? And I think LinkedIn helps you do that. So I tell students, professionals, anyone, any project you're working on, even if it's a full school project, any work that you're trying to do, which is creating an impact, bringing X dollars in revenue to your current employers, or helping you add anything to your credibility today, share those experiences on LinkedIn. Take a quick picture. Even when you do a class presentation, tell your friends sitting in the audience, hey, can you just take a quick picture of me while I'm presenting? Post that on LinkedIn. Share about what did you learn through that presentation, right? What did that presentation mean to you? What were some of the mistakes you made? How did you learn and improve from that, right? So as soon as you start sharing about that, now people can see you as more than just what they see externally. And as we know, our external is influenced by those stereotypes, which dictates how people see us. But the way we can dictate how people see us is by influencing what we put out there, first of all, being very selective about it as well and intentional. I think that is honestly the first way to start. Like even things like getting recommendations from people on LinkedIn. There's a recommendation section. I rarely see students use that. There is an endorsement section as well on LinkedIn. Get people to endorse your skill sets. That's such a great quantifier to use. Even when you're talking to employers or in interviews, if there are 75 people who have endorsed you for having amazing communication skills from your current company, that's 100% thing to show that you are amazing in the way you communicate. That's why people are endorsing you for it, right? So being able to leverage what's already out there, and I think the last thing would be even through LinkedIn or in general, knowing how to sell it, right? If someone's working at H&M and if you just go up to someone and be like, yeah, I just sell clothes, no one's going to want to hire you. But if you go up to them and tell them, hey, I simplify decision making for my clients and customers by effective placement of clothing in the front of the racks than behind, whatever that is, and I help bring X number of customers every day, or I make X number of sales every day, helping H&M make X revenues in dollars per month. Now when I see it, I'm like, wait a second, you are a value add to that company because you're bringing them that $20,000 revenue per month just by yourself, right? So it's those
and
things.
it allows you to look at all the work that you've done as well.
Yeah.
It's a modern way of networking per se. I see a lot of students having old dated resumes. That's not the best way of spending their time. So they should be spending their time here.
Yeah.
So my follow up to that is relates to networking as well. Networking is a big part of professionals, students.
Yeah.
A lot of people struggle with networking. What's your advice to them? How to get better at it?
I think the first thing, two things I would say to that. I think the first thing is just, first of all, reach out to people, right? I think it goes back to that same idea. And I think I noticed this specifically amongst immigrants that we aren't reaching out. Like even when it comes to job opportunities, we assume what the employer needs just based on what's written there in the job description. But half of the times, I'll tell you quite honestly, even the employer themselves aren't reading the job description, right? What they're reading is you as a person. What they're reading is just your application, right? So even if that even if that job description may say, I need 5 years of experience, they may be comfortable hiring you even with just 2 years of experience, provided you're someone who's a great cultural fit for your company. And providing it, if you're someone who can show them the potential that you have, right? And a lot of companies today also are hiring more from experience-based direction instead of, a skill-based instead of experience-based. That means even though you have 20 years of experience, I may not care as much because those 20 years, maybe you added no value to the company you work with or not as much value. But I will hire you for the skills you have today because those show me the potential you have of becoming that XYZ person in the future. And that's what people are hiring people for today, right? 2 years ago, it was the experience-based model. Yeah, and you have a decade of experience, come on board. But today it's no longer that. And that's why people also find it unfair. And I think that's why networking allows you to play along with that unfairness in a way, or that advantage you can create for yourself, whereby even though you may not be that smartest person in the room, may not have the most experience, you will still get those opportunities if you just develop the right strategic connections. And a big part of it is, first of all, identifying who is it that you really want to connect with. What's the purpose you want to try and get out of that connection? Is it to just grow your network so that once you graduate, you can tap into them? Is it to learn from them specific skills that you need for that opportunity? Or is it to get an investment for the company you're trying to build? Whatever those purposes are and whatever those ideal companies are for you, once you've defined those, then going on LinkedIn, finding people in those companies, in those exact roles you want to get into, who come from similar backgrounds as yourself as well. And LinkedIn has all those filters for you to use. So using all those filters to identify those people and doing a broadcast reach out to people. And secondly, once you find those people, the second step is personalizing the invitation. Most of the messages I see on LinkedIn, what people call networking, is them sending a message saying, oh, I'm looking for a job. Can you please provide me one? Or I have so many years of experience. Can you please give me a referral? And I will literally take out the time to respond to them and be like, no, I will not give you a referral. I was like, because it's just, if you think just, how do I say, from a common sense perspective, for employers who are receiving thousands of messages every day, and you are just one of those 10,000 people sending the same message to them, how do you expect someone to even respond to that message? Or how do you expect someone to even pay attention to that? So not just individualizing it, but following up as well after individualizing the message, and make sure you're being consistent both before, during, and after that connection is also important. You don't want to make the other person feel you're using them for anything. It is a mutual street, right? So make sure you provide value to them as well as they are doing to you.
Yeah. It's a two-way street for sure. Just changing the perspective here. Now we talked about the perspective of international students, but let's say we talk about the perspective of the government. You work with students, you see what the challenges are. what changes, if any, the government can make to make the life of international students better in the immigration context per se?
I think as of now, honestly, what the government has done by placing so many legal obligations for institutions to also fulfill in terms of the students they're bringing, the diplomas they're offering, is being so helpful. So many colleges have shut down in the last 6 months because of that. And I think it's incredible because that was one of the biggest reasons that we were just getting students coming in who lacked those credentials sometimes. And I'm not saying it's just credential based. Those students will then come and suffer more because they are being brought in on those false perceptions that we were talking earlier about, right? And I think when we put in these institutional obligations or legal obligations, now the institutions are obliged to be more thorough in who they bring in and being more thorough in what institutions are given the stamp that they can actually bring students in. Because there are a lot of those colleges which shut down that existed, but they were not providing any value to students. And even today, there are some institutions that exist that aren't providing that value. And I will literally have students from those colleges come to me and tell me, Ritika, most of their career heads, I'll tell you, are whom? Students themselves, who made themselves not have jobs today, right? Those are the career representatives as some institutions today. You tell me how the student's supposed to get a job if they're reaching out and talking to just another student who has just got training online on how to be a career coach. But they themselves have never got a job for themselves, right? Like that concept. But why does it happen? Because it's cheap labor. You just pay minimum wage and you get someone to sit at that desk and still be fulfilling the duties that you as an institution are meant to do. So I think something the government has done is definitely helping with that. But there's a lot more we can do. I think becoming more stricter with the institutions that exist in Canada today and being more limited in how many open up as well. There should be criteria that should be listed for who can be considered a college or a university. Similar to how you mentioned, there are colleges today in Brampton and all these areas which might be 2 rooms. But they're colleges, right? And they'll invite students in bulk and they might have students more than they can even fit into that class, charging them fees more than those students should even be paying them because they aren't offering any amenities, they aren't offering any support. And they shouldn't exist in the first place, right? So I think things around that, first of all, which I think they're already doing, but can be made better. And I think secondly, even the limit that they put on students and how number of study permits is actually great, even though it does not feel great in the moment, because now it's allowing us to focus on quality than quantity. Right? Would you rather have students come in, be successful, and then leave the country, or keep staying in the country instead of having twice more students come in, with half of them facing homelessness, or half of them struggling or being unemployed, working in toxic environments, and many who even end up working become a shikar of sex trafficking and so much more? Those things exist. So I think that already is a big thing. And I think the third and the last one I was going to say is, which the government is again already doing a little bit, but I think there can be more creative solutions to come up with it, where I know the government increased the amount of money you need to come in with into Canada as well, right? Just to make sure there's more financial stability. I think that's great actually, because obviously it helps the student plan things better, but it could also create inaccessibility to these opportunities. And I think those things are important. So while they're doing that, maybe furthering that accessibility by having more grants and scholarships available to international students, obviously only those that are incredible, so that accessibility at least exists and is available, along with these restrictions and limitations, which also I think are necessary to ensure the well-being of that student, not only in the short term, but also in the long term, right? So I think those would be a few things.
100%. And I love the last one there, because you don't want to lose out on the bright shining stars just because they weren't able to pull the funds through GIC.
Exactly. And sorry, one thing I was going to mention is actually another thing could be is having more representation in the government systems, in boards, across different NGOs, across different organizations that are newcomer centers, who are the youth themselves and are a part of that community also. I think that's something that's lacking. I know Trudeau and his government had the Young Impact Board and everything, right? But again, those Young Impact Boards are also not representative across the board, right? Having that representative council and representation in general of the youth from those different backgrounds and cultures in those decision-making rooms, I think is another big factor. Even what is that called? The India-Canada, Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce, and all of those organizations that exist, or any of the chambers of commerce or the newcomer centers that exist, they don't have anyone under the age of even 35 who are working with them, right? So, like, how do you cater to students if you don't know what the students want, right? And if you don't have a student who's a part of that decision making either. So I think that I would say is the last piece as well.
And it's going back to having people who have lived through those experiences to then be able to suggest what could be done better. Ritika, international students is one facet of what you deal with, but there's a lot of global issues that Redefine work with as well. You've been in Ghana setting up schools. You've been in India helping underprivileged communities. Can you walk me through with some of the work that you guys have done? What are some of the critical issues that you think the world is facing today?
I think for us, the critical issue is education, lack of relevant and necessary education in the market in general. Even in Canada, even back home in India, and even in any of the other countries like Ghana, Pakistan, Uganda, it's the same thing everywhere. What we're teaching our students today is to just be employees and to be workers. We aren't teaching them to be leaders, and what we need is leaders, right? And I think for me and our organization in general, our focus is not just creating accessibility to education itself, but creating accessibility to relevant education and necessary education that actually prepares the youth of today to be those leaders, not just of tomorrow, but also today, by gaining those relevant skill sets that make them life ready, not just career ready. Because career ready, I think for the longest time has been associated with jobs. I don't want a student even coming to Canada and their first reaction being, oh, I want a job, right? Like the first reaction should be, I want to create this future for myself. And if job is a part of it, that's fine, right? Maybe entrepreneurship is a part of it, and that's also great, right? But I think that perception needs to change, and that perception will change only when we create access to mentors and role models that the students can relate to, who are doing things in those diverse areas and not just those limited areas. And secondly, by actually having courses and curriculums embodied in our education system in itself that are creating those relevant skills. Today, across the globe, if you see, obviously accessibility to education comes first. But I think it's beyond just creating accessibility, right? Because let's say if you even enroll a kid who does not have education today into a school, yes, it will empower them. But is it empowering them for the long term or just the short term? It might empower them for the short term, whereby they become those people who know how to do math, who know about the history and all of that, right? But when it comes to getting out in the world today, have we actually prepared them to be successful there? What if they get out there and they still become homeless? Back to square one, right? We aren't preparing them for that long-term success. And I think our goal is to help make that possible. And that's why when we started doing this work here, I was like, when I was talking to these people, I realized this mindset is coming from all those education systems we've been through as well. Because our teachers have been telling us those things for the longest time. Even this idea of listen to your seniors and your leaders at a company is a very traditional thinking. When I work at Deloitte also today, most of the people I come across, especially those who are immigrants, we have this thinking that, oh, you go step by step in a company, right? There's 2 years you spend at every role. I said, who said that? You can redefine those things. Reach out to that CEO if you want to talk to them. If you ask anyone in a room, how many of you have ever reached out to Mark Zuckerberg? They'll be like, oh, how can I reach out? Then no one's reaching out to him. So maybe if you reach out, you might be someone who stands out. And that had happened for me. When I went to Deloitte, I just messaged the CEO of Deloitte Canada the first day I joined. I was like, hey, excited to be here. Want to chat with you about a few ideas I have. And he responded. And I set up a call with him the next week, right? But is it again because I was the smartest? I was an incredible employee? Not necessarily. But it was just because I took the initiative and I was fearless and I was confident in what I was going to present, right? And I think those things we aren't teaching. And that cannot be taught through a course or a certification. That takes time, that needs to be embodied from the young age upward. And that's what we want to do. We want to build those leaders who are fearless to ask what they want and to actually show why they deserve to get what they want as well. That's our whole goal. So like in the internship programs that we're executing to help the youth, and even in Canada, we want to do these across high schools and universities and colleges to help them build those relevant skill sets for themselves. We recently, even when I was in India, we went to Ajmer and we converted a school bus into a school to create access to education for those underprivileged communities. And once they reach a stage where they have general education established, that's when we go into those relevant skill sets on teaching them how to make their LinkedIn profiles, networking, personal branding. We teach them those concepts. And a lot of those kids today who had the dream to become a singer, but were they told by their parents there's no future there, or who were told they want to go into gymnastics, again, they don't see a future there. We connected them with role models back home in India who are actually making those things happen. And those kids are now pursuing their dream, right? And it's incredible to see that happen.
A lot of us, like a lot of people, don't set their bar high enough. they set very moderate or very low goals.
Yes.
So they don't set very high goals. So by listening to you, you go swinging right for the fences, and a lot of people don't exactly do that. Through your journey, have you encountered any setbacks or failures that have set you up for success later in your life? Do you have favorite failures?
Oh, most. I think it's my failures that have helped me honestly become who I am, and that's why I look forward to failures, quite honestly. I know it sounds weird, but it is, because a failure tells you exactly where you're going wrong many a times, and secondly, it actually helps you see another perspective. And I always say a failure or a rejection for me is always like a redirection. It's always letting you see things from a very different perspective you never imagined. And I've realized I'm actually so good at things I never thought I was good at. But because I got rejected from the areas I wanted to go into, I was pushed to explore the other areas and ended up finding myself loving those areas as well. And I think a quick piece that had happened for me, for example, and I think, again, it's very different for everyone. I think for me, a big one was when I started doing the transition from technology to consulting, actually. I was connecting and networking with a lot of people. I was fairly new to the concept of networking. I didn't even know that is what it was called. And I remember I connected with one of the, again, I shot my shot and I connected with this director from one of the consulting companies. And I was on a call with him and I had no idea about consulting at that point. So maybe I should have prepared as well. But I was just trying to understand. And I remember 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, 2 minutes into a conversation, he goes, "Ritika, why are we on this call?" And I was like, oops. I was like, because I want to learn this and that. And he was like, "I don't think there's any point in this," because you are from kinesiology science. There's clearly no scope for you to get into consulting because these two things don't go along. Let's not waste each other's time, and I'll give you back your time as well. And before I could say anything, he cut the call and left. And I remember on that day, like just after that, and because for someone, and at that time I was very vulnerable because I was still figuring out what I wanted to do. All my life I thought I wanted to be a doctor, and suddenly I was exploring consulting and business, which I'd never done a degree in or any course in. And the first thing I hear from someone is, "You should not be doing it, and this is not meant for you. You're not going to get there, right? Whatever it is." And I remember just breaking down, but I think that rejection again was that point where I was like, wait a second. How dare he tell me I cannot be who I want to be? And if I want to do it, I will do it. And that's when that fire was in me. You know what? Because again, that happened that I started coming across others as well who wanted to transition careers. And I think when I again started seeing others wanting to do the same, not being able to do it, feeling hopeless because others were telling them not to do it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it for myself and show others how they can do it as well, because I know it's possible, because I believe in myself, right? And I realized that it all has to start with that self-belief first. And I think for me, that rejection was so helpful because it helped me realize what I was not doing right. It helped me realize the reason he could reject me was because I myself didn't know what I was chasing at that time. I went in with no clue and idea of what I was actually looking after. I went in blank, just wanting to explore and figure things out, right? But that's when I was like, okay, you know what? Preparation. This is where we start doing it. And that's when 4 months after that, I got a job at all the top 4 consulting firms. And I actually sent him a message and I was like, thank you so much. Because if you didn't reject me, I wouldn't have realized what I'm lacking as of today. And that's when I had developed those relevant skills working with startups, non-for-profits, because I realized that is what was missing. And that's why he couldn't see value in me as a candidate. And now when I sent him all those offer letters and my updated resume, now I see value in you. And I was like, kudos to you. And that person is still my mentor today.
Wow. That's such a beautiful story. So a flip of that would be, what is your most accomplished achievement? What are you most proud of? And what did that teach you?
See, this I always have a hard time thinking of the good part.
Because there's so many of them, perhaps.
No, I don't consider any of them as much accomplishments. But I think the biggest accomplishment, I would say, is when we were at one of our events recently, the Curry Mastery event that we had. And I won't reveal the name. And this always gets me emotional because there was this one student who waited the entire event to end, right? After everyone had left, she came up to me and she told me, "You were the reason I'm alive today." And I said, "Oh." I was like, damn. And she was like, "It's because when I first moved to Canada, I was extremely hopeless, not being able to figure out what I wanted to do. I did not have a part-time job as well either. I was struggling financially. My loans were there on my head. My parents' pressure, my relatives' pressure on not knowing what to do." And I felt like this should just end and all of that. And I started reading your posts on how it's important to get out there, find those connections and networks. And he's like, hearing your story on how you were in my shoes as well not too long ago and how you figured it out helped me believe I could do the same. And she said, I tried a little bit, and she's like, I ended up getting those jobs and everything. But the whole point was my story made her feel she was not alone, and it made her feel that she's not the odd one who's not being able to figure it out, right? And I think for me, that was a big one, because I think for a lot of students, stress is to that point sometimes that we feel like giving up our lives is better than continuing. And I think the fact that people see the story or the work we're trying to do as something that makes them want to give their life another chance, I think feels a big one to me. It's like that idea that Dreama always had as a doctor to save lives. I feel like it indirectly is becoming true through the work that we're trying to do of inspiring and motivating people. So I think that, I would say, has been the biggest accomplishments. And for me, whenever I walk down the street sometimes, I feel so fortunate to do this. So many times when I'm at a mall, even in my own building when I'm sitting, I've had students come up to me and say, oh, are you Ritika from LinkedIn? And I think for me, oh my God, whenever that happens, it feels the biggest accomplishment, because I'm no celebrity. But when they take out that effort on their day, whatever they're doing, to come just say that hi and say how much it means to them what I put out there and that I should keep doing what I'm doing, it just shows me that I am maybe doing something right. And I think that's, oh my God, the joy. I just think they're my kids, and I just feel so nice.
Yeah, that is so powerful, and just goes to say the amount of impact, or the kind of impact you're making in people's lives. So keep on doing what you're doing, because you're doing great work.
Thank you.
Ritika,
Yes.
I have a question for you, and this comes out of my personal selfishness. You go to a lot of speaking events. You represented at TEDx. I think you went to one Young World event. But you go to these events, sometimes there's thousands of people. What kind of preparation goes into it? Do you get anxious before jumping onto the stage? What does that process look like?
Yeah, and what's funny is sometimes actually at smaller events, I get more anxious. If I have to cater to a crowd of like 300 people, oh, I'm pretty chill about it. But as soon as there's a crowd of just 10 people, sometimes I'll randomly get anxious. And I think it depends on what's happened in that day for me, right? I think I am as a person, and I don't know if you noticed this, even through the way I'm on LinkedIn, I'm just like a very in the moment kind of a person. And I don't honestly give a shit about what others think about me, right? I just do what I want to do in a way, right? And I think so. Usually I don't get nervous, but there are times where I do. And I think, but there are times where, especially I'm going in as a speaker specifically, where there is that responsibility that gets added to you to show up a certain way and to be that hope of inspiration or motivation to others so that they know that they can do the same. That's when I feel a little bit of a good type of pressure that, you know what, I want to perform to my best. And I think for me, the best way to perform to your best is just preparation. Prepare and repeat. That's just the entire process. So for me, especially when it's a speaking engagement, and I think I'm improving on this more and more, like a lot of speaking engagements, I honestly go unprepared to it. I never prepare ahead of time, because I think I'm someone who speaks in the moment and who speaks in the emotions and the vibes and the energies I feel. And I think preparing ahead of time doesn't work. But I remember there are instances where my mom will watch an interview that I even did on national television recently. And she's like, Ritika, if you just prepared, you could have been more concise. You could have been like, these are my 3 points, just blabbering all along. And I'm like, that's something I'm improving on. So I feel like that's something that I'm starting to work more intentionally on, is just prepare and do it with people who have done it in the past as well, constantly, so that I'm improving in terms of how I speak, how I approach people. Because as you keep doing more, people's expectation from you also increases. People want that even their 5-minute interactions with you should be that inspirational talk that you give that motivates them for the rest of their life, right? And I think living up to that standard can also be tricky at times. And I notice that even when I meet students, as I mentioned, when I bump into them, that 2-minute conversation we have, there is this expectation in them that 2 minutes, I should be like someone who just changes their life, right? And sometimes you fear, you're like, okay, what if in these 2 minutes I'm not able to actually give something that's that valuable? So those things always are there, but I think be yourself, right? I have a lot of flaws, and I think I'm happy about those flaws, because I think it helps me know that I'm a human. because I'm no god, and I think in many ways helps others know that they're humans as well, and it's okay to have that. So I think I allow my flawed personality to be wherever I go, whether it be me fumbling sometimes, whether it be me making spelling mistakes in my posts as well, which I'm sure you and so many others have noticed. In fact, I have so many people so kindly send me a note as well, like a message being like, Ritika, in your post, this is actually spelled incorrectly. I think this is what you meant. And I was like, oh, really sweet. And then I go change it, right? So things like those. But yeah, I don't think I have an answer to that. I feel like I do feel anxious, then don't. And yeah, I still just show up and just be who I am and just, yeah, go with the flow.
I'll take the takeaway as preparation, because that preparation definitely comes in handy. So Ritika, you seem like a really busy person. You have a full-time job, you manage Redefine, you're sometimes in Vancouver, sometimes in Toronto, talking to thousands of people. How do you manage your day effectively?
I think it's just prioritization and organization. That's it. Right? Like prioritizing, like even the concept of work-life balance, I don't like it because I don't think there's a concept like that. That you have life and work is a part of it. As simple as that. You can't segregate the two, right? You just live it the way it is. And I think prioritizing hour by hour, minute by minute is important. Right? So while I'm doing my part-time job, while I'm doing this, while I'm doing public speaking, there are days where I may prioritize my public speaking over my full-time job, right? Because I know that I may have a deadline until tomorrow to submit that deliverable that client wants, versus that speaking engagement is today, which I know will give me access to individuals I've been wanting to get in contact with. So for that particular day, I may prioritize that engagement over that other opportunity. That also means a lot to me. And even in terms of spending time with family and friends, that day my friend has his birthday. I was very bad at this because I used to never take out time for family, friends and everything. I've realized that it's important because again, you cannot live alone at the top. There's no use being at the top and being by yourself. So you have to move along, because I think that's what's tricky, and that's what actually makes you a leader. So I think for me that day, when it was my friend's birthday, showing up to his birthday, congratulating him, having that meal, sit down meal with him, taking our time for him, meant more than that other deliverable or that other redefined event that we had coming up, which was 2 days after, because I knew I could go back home, stay up a bit late, compromise my sleep a little bit for one day, and still be able to show up at both places and give my 100%. So I think it's things like those and being very organized. My life is on my Google Calendar. Literally, I'll put in everything in my calendar. So like after this, I have a 30-minute break. So I have written meal break. And then I'll go home, grab that meal, come back. So I feel like it's just prioritization and organization. That's it.
Yeah, prioritizing and executing. That's one of the most important skills that a lot of people lack, to be honest. Is there a book that you would recommend everyone to read, and why?
I'm not a big book reader, but recently I've started reading a few books actually. Pat on the back to me to actually make that happen, because it took me like 22 years to make it happen. But the book I really love is Get Epic Shit Done, or Epic Shit Done. It's by Ankur Varaku. I love the work, especially for someone who's looking to get started in reading. It's the perfect book because it's small chapters, very actionable chapters. I don't like the fluff when I'm reading things, right? I'm not one of those story people, right? I rather just watch a movie for the story if that's what I want to do, right? I want things that help me implement things in life, change my life. And I think his book, it's all about how do you build accountability in yourself? How do you create satisfaction for yourself in life? How do you build resilience? How do you give back to people the right way? And how do you become that person you imagine yourself to be? So I love those personal development and self-help books. And it's one of those books as well that I think really helps you build accountability, which I think is one of the most difficult and most important skill sets today, right? Building accountability and knowing how to sell yourself. It teaches you those two things. And I think if you know those two things, you're set for life no matter what you want to do. Because accountability honestly is the trickiest thing. People can be motivated, but not everyone who's motivated is accountable. That's the difference. Yeah.
That there's a massive difference between the two. And I'm surely going to check that book out. If you can put anything on the billboard for the entire world to see, what is your message going to be and why?
Oh my God, such questions. On the billboard. I think it would be something simple. Remember that you are the writer of your story, right? And so no one else deserves to write it. As simple as that.
What does the future hold for you or for Redefined? What do you guys have in the works? What can we expect of you?
I think for us, as I mentioned, one of the biggest things is the internship program that we're launching, which is actually coming up in March, April. April is when we're launching the applications, and it's going to be a 2-month program over May and June, where we're basically helping international students. We have a cohort of only 45 for now, who will be helping develop relevant skills with the Canadian relevant industry and Canadian organizations, so that when they graduate from that program, they have those skill sets to add to their resume and have those quantifiers as well to get opportunities in the area or industry they really want to get into. Beyond that, one of the programs and events we have coming up on April 27th is our recognition program, because I think acknowledgement and recognition is a very important piece to empowering and motivating communities as well. And I think we aren't doing it enough today. And that's why on that event, it's called the Rise and Connect event. We're giving out 5 different award categories that we have to award immigrant trailblazers in the community who are going above and beyond, because I think every immigrant deserves recognition, and I think it's all about celebrating them. So we have that one coming up as well. And last but not the least, we have a summer program that we're launching with the Calgary Newcomers Center I was mentioning, where we are again going to be helping students upskill themselves, learn those relevant skills through workshops with professionals, connect with them, be on those one-on-one calls, but at the same time be connected to local institutions and organizations to again be building those experiences that they can then leverage for their resumes. So those are a few things. And last but not the least, we're also venturing into the high school space, which I'm very excited about, and collaborating with communities like the Afghanistan community, Black Students Association as well, Latin American Student Association too, because I think my idea is to build an organization that caters to all immigrants, and it needs to be made of all immigrants as well. So I think we're bringing a lot of people on our team as well who belong to each of those communities, so that we're building that diverse and inclusive community overall.
That's awesome. So a lot of things to look forward to. A lot of exciting times for yourself and for Redefined. Ritika, it's been a pleasure chatting with you here today, just learning from you, learning about how you go about your work. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
I just want to say, keep on doing what you're doing, because you're really making a difference in people's lives. Before I let you go today, any final words, any parting thoughts for myself or the listeners?
First of all, thank you so much for having me as well. I really appreciate you taking out the time. And I think the only thing I would say is, I think for everyone who watches this, I think, what I was saying about the billboard piece as well, I think I really want you to ingrain it in your minds, because I think for each one of us, I think there's a treasure we all hold within us. But I think many a times the way we perceive that treasure is influenced by what others tell us, right? And I'll tell you, you're always going to find people who will tell you you cannot do it. You're always going to find people who are going to tell you you are not meant to do it. But I think what's important is you, first of all, identify what is it exactly that you really want to do. And when you identify that, just draw a straight line towards that goal and just walk headstrong there, not looking left or right. Focus on your goals, and I promise you, if you're being consistent, if you're putting in the effort every single day, whatever you write with that pen on that piece of paper will all come true, and it will happen no matter what, because guess what? It's meant for you, right? And all you gotta do is put in the effort. So please, I would say, trust yourself, believe in yourself, and when you look at yourself in that mirror every single day, just know that you're chasing that dream you've always wanted to achieve, and you will achieve it. All you gotta do is just put in the effort, right? Simple, right? Yeah, just show up every day and it's going to happen, right?
Right, 100%. It is a powerful message. We'll leave it at that. Once again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Take care.